Cities will glow non-stop. Data centers humming, AI training, robots working through the night, while neighborhoods just outside the grid go dark by design. Not because the electricity ran out, but because it was prioritized. Power is becoming expensive, strategic, and selective. And when that happens, it stops being a utility and starts acting like a border. The uncomfortable question isn't whether there will be enough electricity, but won't it cause riot and what force would control it? The most important number in the United States is not a law, a budget, or an election margin. The 60. Specifically, 60 hertz, the exact rhythm at which electricity pulses through the country. Every light, server, elevator, hospital ventilator, and trading algorithm quietly agrees to dance to it. If that rhythm drifts even slightly, reality starts to misbehave. Not metaphorically, physically. The power grid is not a thing. It's a synchronized organism stretched across a continent. Thousands of power plants, coal, gas, nuclear, hydro, wind, spin heavy metal turbines in near-perfect unison. They are not connected by command, but by physics. If one stumbles, others feel it instantly. The grid corrects itself the way a tightrope walker does, constantly, invisibly, and one mistake away from falling. This rhythm is so stable that clocks used to rely on it. For decades, electric clocks kept time by counting grid cycles. When the grid slowed down in 2018 due to political disputes in Europe, entire countries lost minutes. In the US, grid operators still obsess over microdeviations because computers, data centers, and industrial machines assume the beat will never change. They were not designed for improvisation. Here's the uncomfortable part. The grid is being pushed harder than it was ever designed for. Air conditioning during heat waves, data centers that never sleep, electric cars plugging in at dinner time, renewable energy that doesn't spin, but flickers. Each adds stress to the shared rhythm. The grid can handle change. What it hates is surprise, and we are building a future full of it. The US power grid is addicted to prediction. Every second, operators forecast demand minutes, hours, and days ahead. How many ovens will turn on at 6 p.m.? How many AC units will fight the heat? How much wind will arrive on schedule? The system works because human behavior is boringly consistent until it isn't. When prediction breaks, the grid doesn't gently adapt. It snaps. For most of the 20th century, electricity followed a simple rule. Power plants chased demand. People used power, generators responded. Today, demand chases supply too. Solar floods the grid at noon, then vanishes at sunset. Wind surges at night when fewer people need it. This creates a daily stress event called the duck curve, where demand ramps up violently in the evening. The grid survives this by sprinting, firing up gas plants fast enough to keep up. Speed is now the currency. Gas turbines can ramp in minutes, batteries in seconds, algorithms in milliseconds. That sounds good until you realize something important. The faster systems react, the less time humans have to intervene. Grid control is quietly shifting from human judgment to automated reflex. Most of the time, that's safer. Sometimes it's not. In 2021, Texas learned this the hard way. A cold snap froze gas wells, ice turbines, and spiked heating demand simultaneously. Power plants failed faster than backups could start. Automated protections shut the grid down piece by piece to prevent total collapse. Millions lost power for days. Hundreds died. This wasn't caused by renewables or fossil fuels alone. It was caused by a system optimized for efficiency, not resilience. Efficiency removes slack. Slack is boring, expensive, and life-saving. It's extra fuel storage, extra transmission lines, power plants that sit idle most of the year. Markets hate slack. Engineers love it. The modern grid has been trained to run lean, precise, and fast. That makes it brilliant on normal days and brittle on abnormal ones. The grid doesn't fail because it's old. It fails because it's optimized for a world that no longer exists. If you think this sounds like a tech problem pretending to be an energy problem, you're tracking correctly. The grid used to fear storms. Now it fears updates. Software has become as influential as temperature, wind, and rain. Grid operators depend on millions of lines of code to predict demand, route power, price electricity, and prevent failure. None of this code runs in isolation. It talks. It reacts. It assumes other software will behave correctly. That assumption is doing a lot of work. Modern grids operate like high-speed negotiations. Power plants bid electricity into markets every 5 minutes. Algorithms decide which plants run, which shut down, and which sit on standby. These decisions shape real physics, spinning turbines, heating wires, draining reservoirs. When software misjudges, metal pays the price. And software misjudges more often than we admit, because edge cases are invisible until they aren't. Cyberattacks add a second layer of instability. You don't need to blow up a power plant to cause damage. You just need to confuse the system. In 2015 and 2016, attackers remotely shut down parts of Ukraine's grid, not by destroying hardware, but by exploiting operator interfaces. The lights went out because humans were locked out of their own controls. The US grid is better defended, but also vastly more complex, which increases the attack surface. Artificial intelligence is already stepping in to manage this complexity. AI forecasts demand, stabilizes voltage, and coordinates batteries faster than any human could. This is necessary. It's also risky. AI systems optimize for goals we define: cost, efficiency, reliability, but not always for the weird, cascading failures we haven't seen yet. When multiple AI systems interact, they can amplify each other's mistakes at machine speed. This is where the grid starts to resemble a financial market. Tight coupling, automated responses, small signals triggering large movements. The 2010 flash crash showed what happens when trading algorithms panic together. The grid has similar feedback loops, but instead of numbers on a screen, the outputs are heat, motion, and darkness. Physics is less forgiving than finance. We're not handing control to machines because we trust them more. We're doing it because the system has grown too fast for humans alone. That trade is already locked in. For a century, the goal was scale. Bigger plants, longer lines, fewer points of control. Electricity flowed one way, from distant generators to passive consumers. That model is quietly unraveling. Not because it failed, but because it can't keep up. The grid is discovering a counterintuitive truth. Sometimes, smaller is stronger. Enter microgrids, neighborhood-sized power systems that can disconnect from the main grid and run independently. A hospital with its own generators and batteries. A military base with solar, storage, and backup fuel. A town that can island itself during a wildfire or hurricane. These systems don't replace the grid. They give it breathing room. When the main system stumbles, microgrids refuse to fall with it. This shift is driven by physics and money. Long transmission lines are vulnerable: trees, fires, ice, sabotage. They're also expensive and slow to build. Local generation avoids both problems. Solar panels don't need fuel deliveries. Batteries don't care about pipelines. The trade-off is coordination. Thousands of small systems must now behave like one large system, without stepping on each other's toes. That's a control problem, not an energy one. Utilities are conflicted. Centralized grids are easier to manage and bill. Distributed systems threaten old business models. But climate disasters are forcing the issue. California shuts off power to prevent fires. Florida rebuilds after hurricanes. Puerto Rico rewired its future after collapse. Resilience is no longer theoretical. It's political. Communities are asking a simple question. Why should one broken line take down everything? This doesn't mean independence. It means redundancy. The internet works because it routes around damage. The grid was never built that way. Now it's trying to learn. Slowly, unevenly, with friction. Power is becoming something you don't just consume, you participate in. Your roof, your car, your battery are no longer accessories. They are infrastructure. The uncomfortable implication is responsibility. A distributed grid needs cooperation, standards, and trust. It trades simplicity for survivability. That's a deal modern societies are being pushed to accept, whether they're ready or not. Electricity feels neutral because it's invisible. It isn't. Every kilowatt carries policy, incentives, and priorities baked into it. The grid reflects what a society values under pressure. Reliability versus cost. Speed versus safety. Local control versus national coordination. These are not engineering questions pretending to be political. They are political questions enforced by engineering. In the US, the grid is fragmented by design. 3 major interconnections. Dozens of regional operators. 50 sets of rules. This makes nationwide coordination difficult and reform slow. It also means failures are often local, while lessons are national. After every blackout, reports are written, recommendations issued, and memory fades. Infrastructure changes slower than weather patterns now do. That mismatch is becoming expensive. Climate change isn't a future stressor. It's a current load. Heat waves push demand beyond historical models. Droughts reduce hydropower. Cold snaps hit places not built for them. The grid isn't breaking because it's obsolete. It's breaking because it's being asked to operate outside the envelope it was tuned for. And tuning takes time, money, and political will, three things rarely aligned. There's a quieter shift happening underneath all this. Power is becoming data-rich. Smart meters, real-time pricing, demand response programs that pay people to not use electricity at critical moments. The grid is learning to negotiate with consumers instead of commanding them. That's efficient. It's also invasive. Flexibility requires visibility. The system needs to know when you cook, charge, cool, and sleep. Privacy and resilience are starting to share a boundary. The future grid will not be purely centralized or purely local. It will be layered, adaptive, and opinionated. It will decide whose power is critical and whose is optional, which risks are acceptable and which are not. These decisions won't feel dramatic until the moment they matter to you personally, when the lights stay on somewhere else. The grid doesn't just deliver electricity anymore. It distributes consequences. If power is policy made physical, who do you think it's designed to protect? Thanks for watching. Now I need you to subscribe and being part of the family. And don't forget to comment down your thoughts on this. This is my first try.